And we're live at the Pontiac Power Hour.
Good evening, everybody.
So I am Buff from Buff's Garage.
And I'm Ray from Punisher Lemans Garage, or Buff's Garage when I get confused. I don't know.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out his video, you got to check it out. That was pretty hilarious. All right, I'm going to run through the chat real quick just to point out who's at least commented. I've got I Spider Garage with a boom, baby. Arrowhead Garage was here early, and I just saw him come back in. Let's see. Hunter, Sand Mountain Ballistics, Unfinished Project. John Wilburn, Struggle Bourbon Garage with his new wrench / hammer. And that's all I got in the chat so far. Oh, there's Lars and Two Stall Garage. So welcome, everybody. We are back to the Pontiac Power Hour.
JB's little speed shop, too. You missed him.
Where's he at?
He's up there.
There he is. Well, he forgot which day it was, so I'm allowed to forget him for a moment.
Yeah,
there he is.
It happens.
All right. So we are back for the Pontiac Power Hour. It has been a long week for me. We've got just a few weeks left until No Name Nationals, and I have been grinding on the Pontiac Grand Prix. It is definitely, it's been quite a journey. I've got engine and transmission back out, but it's ready to go back in. Got the wiring harness almost buttoned up and in the car, and then, just everything else. But I do plan on having it at No Name Nationals, and I can't wait to meet everybody. Ray, how's your car doing?
Oh, my car's doing good. I drove it to work today and finished up the roll cage. I'm making some floor plates to cover where I cut the holes in it to weld the roll cage to the frame. So I'll put carpet and stuff in it this weekend. I think I'm a little further ahead of you.
Just a bit. And yours is pretty much legit. And mine's, rescued after sitting for 30 years.
Your car is cool as hell, though. I love the air ride. I love the way it sits, the wheels, tires. Man, that thing looks good.
Yeah, so I took it, or I went back out to the Hidden Honey Hole and talked to the gentleman who sold me the car, and he saw some pictures of it. And at first you could see the look on his face was like, oh no, what did you do? But then I explained that it's on air ride, and he goes, oh, so it's not always that low. I said, no, you can raise it back up. I said, in fact, it'll raise up higher than it does from the factory. And he went, oh, so it's not going to ride bad. I said, no, it's going to ride like a Cadillac on air. He immediately fell in love with the car. So I can't wait to take it back out and put him in there and go for a ride.
Well, when my car was in the shop today, we had our UPS guy checking it out. And I ended up getting him to go to my show, and he's going to be watching us tonight. So he's a big Pontiac guy. He wasn't real thrilled to see the LS in my car, but when he saw the turbo, he thought it was all right.
Yeah, nobody likes the LS, and I understand it. It's like if I'd have put a 350 Chevy in it, it would have got the same negativity. But I had 100 days to get ready for No Name. I had the LS sitting in the side yard, so that's what we did. If I had something else sitting in the side yard, I would have put that in there. But I want to tell you a story that's pretty funny. So I've had the car in and out of the garage since I've got all four wheels on the ground now. And I had pushed it out one morning, sitting out in the driveway. and I was gathering up all the, I'd cleaned up the floor, but I didn't take the garbage out to the curb. And so as I'm dragging the can out to the curb, I realized trash guy's already been there. So about halfway up the driveway, I stop and I kind of think for a second. I go, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put it back out there. And as I continued walking out to the curb, the trash truck pulls up from the opposite direction that it normally comes. And the guy jumps out and he goes, anything for my hot rod guy. Let me have your trash. I want to throw it away. And then tell me about your car. So I spent, 3 or 4 minutes talking to him about the car, and he just loved the car. So I got double service that day. I kind of liked it, all because of that car.
Yeah, the other night I had my car outside, and this guy stops and backs up real quick. He goes, "Man, can I check out your car?" So he was taking pictures of it and stuff. He's like, "GTO, right?" I was like, "You're close." At least he didn't call it a Chevelle, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, my road is usually like the Autobahn. Everybody just flies by. But ever since I put that car out, and I put it in and out every day, so I put it out during the day so I can work in the garage. But ever since I put it outside, everybody slow rolls now. So I guess that worked. It helped slow everybody down. All right. We got Colleen Tebow in the chat. We got Buck Does It in the chat. Leighton Motorsports is here. All right. So do you want to get to some history?
Let's do it.
All right, guys. So last week we covered the history of the GTO, very important vehicle for the Pontiac world. And I just look at it was, how is it not natural to then jump right in to the Firebird? So this week we'll be talking about the Pontiac Firebird. And
I believe the Pontiac Firebird is probably more iconic than the GTO, just because more people know what the Firebird is than the GTO, in my opinion.
True. And throughout the entire iteration of the Firebird, everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what the, Screaming Chicken's all about. Not many people understand the history of the Le Mans and the GTO, the Tempest, how important that was to car culture, and history. But then you add in that led then to this pony car era, which then just everybody upped their game. So we're just moving right along into the Pontiac Firebird history. And yay, it's Firebird Day. I see that from Arrowhead Garage. It was bound to happen.
That is actually my favorite car, is the second gen Firebird.
It's one of mine as well. And of course, I have a third gen sitting in the garage right now. But I'd take any of them. I would even take a fourth gen if I could do it the way I want. All right, should we roll into this?
Let's do it.
All right. So I have notes, but I'll just cheat a little bit. So one thing about the Firebird is we ended up seeing an era of Chevrolet bringing up these new pony cars. They're trying to compete, right? Well, the king of Pontiac, Mr. John DeLorean, did not want to make the Firebird. He just completed what he thought was, the muscle car. And then he's kind of being led into this thing where he's got to come up with this Firebird. So John DeLorean thought that they should follow up that GTO with a proper sports car, a two-seater that he called the Banshee. And the brass at GM said no, repeatedly no, because they were afraid they were going to compete against the the Corvette. Did I lose you?
I don't know what happened.
So turns out that GM was right. GM did need something to compete against the Mustang, and they wanted Pontiac to offer a version of that Camaro and then synchronize the launch for 1967. So John DeLorean finally gave in. It took so long to decide if he really wanted to do it that he had to ask for an extra 6 months to create a real Pontiac on that platform. So, of course, it worked. When the Firebird launched in '67, it was about 6 months after the Camaro, and the car was an immediate hit. I mean, it has a similar body, but it is very distinctly different. And that Pontiac Firebird brand, that model, remained in production for 35 years, over 4 generations. And of course, we all know that it was in Rockford and The Bandit and so many other TV shows. Knight Rider, pretty iconic car. So that first Pontiac came in either a two-door coupe or two-door convertible. Those Firebirds were built on the Camaro platform. They were constructed using different parts. That way it would help separate the car's look. The Firebirds featured body integrated front bumpers and, of course, different engines. And these first Firebirds came with a 3.8 L6 engine that was 220 horsepower. I had no idea. I just thought they all had V8s from the beginning until later in life. You could always get the upgraded 6.6 liter V8 in that first gen, 340 horsepower out of that engine. And let's see, so much. Let's see, they had the L6 version of the Firebird also meant you got a 4-speed manual gearbox with safety track, which was the Posi-Track version for Pontiac. And your V8's got a 3-speed automatic instead of the manual. So what I thought was really interesting for a lot of people is, of course, we know better, but some people can't delineate between a Firebird and a Trans Am. Well, the first Trans Am showed up in 1969, and it really didn't take off. And mainly because the performance and appearance package was $725. So back then, that's quite a bit of money for what they didn't see as a lot of difference. They didn't have a lot of advertising around it. It just didn't catch on. But of course, the Trans Am was named after the Trans-American Racing Series, and it hinted that the car was a performance car. And even though that initial Trans Am didn't come out to much fanfare, we all know what's come of the Trans Am since then. So not to stray too far from just Firebird, but the Trans Am kind of got a bad rap in the beginning and then picked up later in life.
Well, I would love to have a 69 Trans Am or a convertible. I could retire. I think there was only like 8 convertibles, and they're all accounted for. So if you see a Trans Am barn find, it ain't real.
So what color, this is early trivia for you, what color were all of the 69 Trans Ams?
Me?
Yeah.
White and blue.
See if anybody else knows. Now that we know the answer.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. You know, and that's what makes this show great. You know that little bit of information that some people go, wait a minute, I have a 69 and it's red, or I have a 69 and it's black. It's like, not Trans Am. Okay. Unfortunately, first gen didn't last very long. So let's switch over to the second gen.
The best gen.
Truly, I mean, the front end on that car right there is just amazing. I love it. So following that first round of Firebirds, the second gen hit the scene in 1970, and that ran clear up until 1981. And that new Firebird brought the new look and new stance, just a whole different vibe, different feel to it. One of the major appearance changes was the 2 intakes added to it on the front. It switched from the 4 circular headlights to the 2 large headlights, which is funny because later they go back to 4 rectangle lights. convertibles just really didn't exist during this generation.
They also introduced the radial tune suspension in the second gen.
Nice. So this generation gave more options, enhanced performance. They had 4 different engines and 3 different transmissions. You could get a 3 or 4-speed manual or a 2 or 3-speed automatic. Obviously, kind of filling the gap for all the different types of drivers. The second gen gave users an average amount of power, but they quickly put out a 6.6 Ram Air 4 motor. And in 1971, buyers had access to a 7.5 liter engine. Now, people would think that this was the height, and the Firebird was only going to get better with the coming years. But of course, the government stepped in. There were new regulations, the high fuel prices, diminishing supply of fuel. And so GM as a whole said, hey, everybody, let's detune everything. So by 1974, the Pontiac's weight had increased significantly due to the new bumper requirements. The change to unleaded fuel at the time caused a reduction in compression ratios. It, of course, decreased the car's power output. And then regulations relating to carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon made it so ignition timing took longer and the cams weren't as aggressive. So by the end of this generation, the Pontiac's Firebird top power had gone down significantly. The most powerful V8 you could get only put out 200 horsepower, which is far cry from the early Ram Airs.
They also introduced the catalytic converters on the second gen.
And they end up featuring the Firebird decal, the Screaming Chicken, the Rising Phoenix, or whatever name you want to give it. They introduced it in this one. So, of course, the Trans Am, same fate, saw a decrease in power during this generation. They started with a 6.6 liter V8, progressed to the 7.5, but by the end of their run, they were running a 4.9 liter Pontiac Turbo V8. And compared to the other Firebirds, this Trans Am did improve the suspension, which is what you mentioned earlier. Let's see. Do I have another picture? Yeah. This is, of course, the generation for the Burt Reynolds Smokey and the Bandit car. And so, you know, if he drove one, it's got to be cool, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let's see. Who'd we add into the chat? I just saw Dakota's timeout up in here. Got Jeff from Two Hacks. Dr. Arts. Welcome, guys. See if we can get his. There we go. Good evening, everybody. This is from Dr. Arts. Probably the best looking Firebird that were made. And, you know, not in brown, but with the twin scoops hood, red. Yep, I agree. I think that front end is gorgeous.
Oh, we got Irish Outlaw.
Yep. Eric, Destroyer 1320's in the chat. Bear Rose is here. Shopcat, Kitty's here.
Hi, Shopcat.
Hi, Jay. I see you sent me a text message, Jay. I'll get to you, I promise. I'm doing a show right now. All right. I think we're ready to move on to the first WS6. So Pontiac introduced the WS6 Special Performance Package in the second gen 1978 Trans Am. Believe it or not, it cost $324, and it swapped those 15x7s for 15x8s. Oh my gosh. Huge. But that brought in the snowflake wheels, which we know so well, with wider tires, beefier rear sway bar. The optional handling package remained available in various years throughout the Firebird's second and third gen, and it became the standard for the 87 Formula and Trans Am GTAs. And they really did improve the handling quite a bit on those cars.
Yeah, those cars handled really well. Actually, I've had
And
a
even
handful.
though, oh yeah, and even though they discontinued the WS6 package, uh, pretty much when they introduced that fourth gen Firebird in '92, it came back in '96 with a ram air hood and remained until the last Firebird flew out of Detroit. And I won't tell you when that was. You'll have to figure it out in trivia later. All right. So we've moved on to the era I'm most familiar with because I grew up in this time frame and I own one. Our third generation Firebirds. So the third generation Pontiac Trans Am Firebird or Firebirds and Trans Ams, they made it in 1982, and they sold that generation for 10 years from 82 to 92. By that time, Pontiac had fully embraced all the new regulations.
Almost
The car
forgot.
was, oh yeah, we're in third gen. Hold on. Whoops.
Jen, without the mullet wig, man, just can't. I learned this from John Wilburn, always with masks and different stuff. So, are you coming back? Or are you just going to leave me here?
I was just going to leave you there. I thought,
Oh,
you can hold the whole show with that mullet wig.
I know.
Well, now that we are fully dressed for the third gen, uh, like I said, the third gen showed up in '82, lasted to about '92. Um, the car was completely redesigned so that they would adopt all of the regulations, but made it look better, made it handle better, had a better aerodynamics, even with all the additions. So one of the big things they did was they dropped that windshield down to about 62 degrees, and of course that full, unibody style car chassis there. Unfortunately, against Pontiac's request, GM did not let them run the Pontiac engine in that car. They had to run the GM fuel injected 5-liter V8, which was just a dog of an engine. But this generation turned out to be a very strong one. While the second gen kind of got slowed down by the changing regulations, the third gen was better prepared to handle it. Instead of sticking with that heavy chassis and then just bulking all the stuff on top of it, they completely redesigned the car to incorporate that as part of the weight, which came in at a lighter weight and a better design. And of course, it's nice and wide, so it handled better too. They dropped a couple of 100 pounds off the car compared to the previous generation, and then the car ended up getting kind of a wedge-like appearance.
And you could get the available Iron Duke 2.5 liter 4-cylinder in the Firebird.
Yes, you could. Which is not the best engine, but it's torquey. It is torquey.
Not in a 3,500 pound car.
Not in anything except the mail truck. Let's see. They called it the 3-door because they were a hatchback coupe. The engines varied from a 90 horse to a 238 horse engine. And you could get it in a 4 or 5 speed manual or 4-speed auto, the old 700 R4. Let's see. Oh, third gen brought the hideaway headlights.
Oh, yes, the infamous flip ups.
Yep, which I personally love as long as they don't fail, because they do love to fail.
Usually only one fails, though.
Yeah, and then you got to wink.
One up, one down.
Yeah. Yep. So, of course, in this generation, you also saw, the end of the Smokey and the Bandit era car, but actually Smokey and the Bandit 3, I believe it's Smoky Bandit 3, used a third gen Trans Am in their show. And of course, Knight Rider, it was a third gen. And several other TV shows and movies would feature them. They're not the worst generation by far. I think everybody agrees which one's the worst. But again, I would take one if somebody gave me one. There you go. There's your convertible.
Yeah, I'm not a convertible guy.
I had a 91 Camaro convertible. Looked just like it, obviously, other than it was Camaro. Oh, look at that. ASO's in the house.
And if you talk to like all the diehard Pontiac guys, they'll say that Pontiac died in 1981 when the last Pontiac V8 went in there. But I mean, they started putting GM corporate engines in them in 76, 77. You could get a 3.8 liter V6, Buick V6. You could get a 305 Chevy V8. And then you could get the 403 Oldsmobile. I mean, they just stuffed so much crap in them that I don't know. They're all Pontiac to me. I don't care what's in it.
Right. So if we don't like the convertible, how about this thing? That was rare. The notchback, instead of having that massive glass window, you could get a notchback.
I don't hate it.
There's even a concept called the camback. Have you ever heard of that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so instead of the notch, that whole hatch would be replaced with basically a truck topper, making it look like a station wagon. Kind of crazy.
Did you ever see the Pontiac Trojan? It was.
I don't think I have.
It was a kit car.
Yes, I have. I have seen it.
It looks kind of like a Ferrari.
Yep.
And you could get them with. They was pretty hot actually. I think you could get them with up to 500 horsepower.
I'm guessing they were tuned up just a little bit.
Yeah, that little T5 didn't like it though.
Jeff says it looks like a Fiero had a kid with a Grand Prix. Hey, if it's still Pontiac, it's Pontiac. We'll take it. All right, we're about halfway in. Let's see if we can round out this generation with the fourth gen.
Ooh.
I know. So I have seen some pretty awful fourth gens, but I've also seen some pretty amazing ones. So growing up in this time frame, I got to see these cars, brand new. And I would tell you that I was not one that was very interested. In fact, once the 91, 92 hit and that whole front fascia change on the third gen, I was pretty much done. But the fourth gen kind of ushered in this new era, and it tried a little bit to bring back some of the people that love the Firebird and the Trans Am. So from 1993, and I won't tell you when it ended, from 1993 until the end of the Firebird production, they brought in this fourth generation. And some of the advances in technology really was able to bring back the horsepower. And if you look at how everyone hates the LS, well, this was the early version of that coming into play. So it took these doggy, low horsepower engines that were in the cars, and they were able to bring them up to speed and torque and horsepower just by adding a little electronic twist to them. So when they came back, so the 93 Firebird, this fourth gen, was almost completely new parts. They didn't recycle a lot in it. One of the most notable engines was, of course, the LS1 V8. It got up to 325 horsepower. So when you think back to that you know, barely 200 horsepower engines they were running in the second and third gen. Yeah, we're much better off in this era. Um, of course, the LS1 was performance oriented. All of our standard models ended up with a 3.8 liter V6. And I cannot tell you how many times somebody would pull up to the gas station or the Sonic here in town and they've got themselves a Firebird. And you're like, man, that's a cool car. And then they pop the hood and it's a V6. And you're like, oh, never mind. It's not that they didn't have pep or anything, but you get the style without the power. It kind of takes it away from it. That V6, though, did have 200 horsepower from the factory. And along with those options, it received the anti-lock brakes and airbags, which would improve its safety as well. So at the end of the fourth generation, the car went out with a bang because they released a Firebird Trans Am that featured the WS6 options. And that options added a 5.7 liter V8. And the car would do a quarter mile in just over 13 seconds, which back then, factory car, not too bad. And this 325 horsepower of the final Trans Am made for a very powerful car and was also a 35th anniversary version of the Firebird featuring the yellow paint, custom graphics, and black wheels, which is what we got on the screen there. So tell me what you like or don't like about this fourth gen.
I love the fourth gen. That's one of my favorite body styles. I almost bought a 2002 Firebird Firehawk. And I priced my insurance and then I decided I wouldn't want to do that. But it's an SLP car. I really wish I had, but knowing me, I would have broke it or wrecked it.
Right. Hey, we got cousin Mike in the chat. Let's see. Dakota just doesn't like anything about him. And that's fine. I've not been a huge fan, but I will tell you, if I came across one that wasn't a ridiculous price and I could build it however I wanted, I probably would.
I definitely like the fourth gens better than the third gens.
The third gen, second and third gen both were plagued by so many other issues that they really didn't have a real chance to meet the potential, get up to the potential that they should have. And it's unfortunate that they were kind of stifled in that way. But when you got the government and corporations running you, you kind of go with the flow.
Dakota asked on there, and I don't know if it's in your quiz, so I won't answer it, but what the fastest Trans Am was, but I do know the answer to that, and it may surprise some people.
I have a similar question, so we'll wait till the trivia and then throw it in there. Let's see. I agree, Hunter. They still look better than the Camaros. Oh, look at that. There's all your generations, including the concepts.
I remember seeing that dual bubble window, big wing thing, and I was like, oh, man, that's cool.
Yeah. And most people don't even know what it is.
Now I'm like, that thing looked like George Barris got a hold of it.
Kind of. And Jay, you're right. They did try to keep up with the Fox body, but I don't think their heart was really in it in the beginning. And then they kind of tried to make an attempt a couple of different times, and corporations took over, and it is what it is.
And then in 1993, 94, Ford went to the 4.6 liter and Chevy went to the 5.7 liter LT1 and with the 6-speed and started laying a butt whooping down on the Mustangs. And then in 1997, they came out with the LS1, and then Ford didn't have a prayer.
Yeah. So I think some really good things came out of the entire Firebird history, and we've gained a lot of pretty iconic things. The movie cars. Granted, the T-tops didn't iterate then, but they definitely made them famous. And you really just get that 60s and 70s vibe when you see those cars running around. And just like you had the mullet, man, it's a whole era of different pop culture references. Well, let's see where are we at. Coming up on 8:35, so I think it's about time for some trivia. Are you ready for trivia?
We're always ready for trivia, aren't we?
I think so. Let me find the button here and go. All right, you guys in the comments, it's trivia time. I know that's why you guys come back. It's not to see us. I mean, it's really just about the trivia. Let's see. We've got 21 folks watching. So, welcome everybody. This is your chance to participate. And we do have a live chat. So, if you don't have your browser open to where you can see the live chat, pull it up so that it's on the side there. Pull it up on your phone. Just make sure you can see it. Because it is time for trivia. All right. I put the answers in the slide this time, so we'll just be able to tick right through it. Everybody ready?
I was born ready.
All right.
Little Smokey and the Bandit reference.
Yes. So what year did GM first use the name Firebird?
I expect everybody to get this one.
I think Barrows definitely. I agree with you, Barrows. The kit car did not have a lot. Now, I mean, if you go with by what kit was, the turbine powered, yeah, it was definitely more horsepower in theory, but reality is. All right, so we got a lot of 1967s. We got Nathan has to be different and say E. It's not even a choice.
He's a Mopar guy.
Jeff's got 1953. And Colleen says 1956. Barrows says 1956. Let's see. Irish says wait. What are we waiting on, Irish?
Is that your final answer, Irish Outlaw Garage?
He said D. Oh, he changed it to C. Well, let's see the answer. Now let me remember which one C was. Oh, no, B. It's 1953. And the question was, what year did GM first use the name Firebird? And GM, the GMATs, whatever it was, used the name Firebird on the 1953 XP21 concept car. Sorry, concept cars count for this particular trivia. But it wasn't a Pontiac. But if you look real close on the photo, you'll see a certain familiar bird on the front of it. Barrows knew the car but missed the year. You were so close. What's interesting is 1956 was the introduction of the Firebird 2. So technically, Barrows is correct, except that's not the first time they used it. That's the second time they used it. Dakota, it was a car. They were going for 200 miles an hour out of that car. It wasn't a production car, but it was a car. Well, thank you, 361 Outlaw. I'm glad you learned something today. I learned it whenever I put it in the trivia. That's why I love the show, is I learn just as much as everybody else. All right, Jay's got some trivia for us. Who drove a Trans Am in the original Cannonball movie?
Oh man, I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Not Sammy Davis Jr., is it? I don't remember. Dakota's going to dispute the answer, and that's fair. The question was, when did GM, not Pontiac, when did GM first use the name? I specifically made sure I put GM in there, not Pontiac.
I'm gonna have to say I don't remember the first Cannonball Run.
You don't remember it?
I remember the movie, but I don't remember who drove the Trans Am in it.
It was a great movie.
Well, yeah, it was
but I don't
great.
remember. Are you going to tell us? Welcome back, Arrowhead. We appreciate you tuning in. Cousin Mike, I don't even know how to say that. Richard Losey? Struggle Bourbon, the point of trivia is not always to be right, it's to learn something new. And how many people knew that in 1953 they made a Firebird concept car? Let alone three of them, the Firebird 1, 2, and the 3. David Carradine. First Cannonball movie was an action flick in 1976. Interesting.
I learned
All right.
something.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Now, this one kind of surprised me. It shouldn't surprise me, but it did. So, what year saw the highest Firebird sales for Pontiac? All Firebirds, not just the iconic ones. All right, we got 79, 79, 79. Jeff says 77. Sorry, buddy, that's not an option for an answer. However, the 1977 may have played into it. Hint, hint. Let's see. I got an 89, a 99, another 99. Struggle Bourbon Wife says B. Well, how about your wife is correct? So, of course, 77 brought which car?
Dun, dun, dun. Smokey and the Bandit.
That's right. So by 78, it was extremely popular Trans Am, Firebirds and Trans Ams all together. So by 79, they kept a very, iconic look all the way through that 79 year. And bam, 211,454 Firebirds. That included your Trans Ams.
And the 10th anniversary Trans Am, the silver one, was a beautiful car.
Absolutely. I've seen a couple of them, and they are just amazing. So if you guessed B, even though this says 78 on my screen, 79 is the correct year of the highest sales. And it did ride the coattails from 77, 78, and 79, capping them out. So good job, everybody that got that one. Arrowhead, I think you and everybody else wants to find one of those. And a legit factory T-top, not the smaller, what is that, the Hearst T-top, the smaller ones?
They had the Hearst hatch T-tops, they had the Fisher T-tops, and then they had the one that was all glass. Made the roof look like it was all glass. I don't remember what they're called, but there's 3 different T-tops.
I think I'm thinking of the Fisher one. The Fisher one for me was I think they were bigger than the
Yeah.
Hearst model.
I personally like the Hearst hatch T-tops, like the one in the picture.
Yep. I would take any of them. I just want one. Targa roof. Did the glass one, did it go all the way across or
No, it still had the T-bar. It just
met in the middle and it looked like glass?
yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, they're that would be an interesting one. I haven't seen one of those in person. So we're talking T-tops. What year saw the introduction of the T-tops to the Firebird lineup?
I know.
Let's see if the people in the chat know.
Fine, I'll be quiet.
Well, they were riding, again, someone else's coattails on this one because another popular GM vehicle already rocked the T-tops for a little while.
Yeah. And then they put T-tops in everything after a while.
Well, everybody wanted them until they didn't.
Until they start leaking and squeaking,
yeah, so
and rattling.
My third gen Trans Am, I have a legit numbered VIN number Trans Am. The floors have a few rust spots in them, but there's nothing that the floors are solid, and it's because it's not a T-top car. Cousin Mike says lasagna. So let's see.
Like lasagna.
We got 76. We got 1970. We got 74. Because GM in the mid 70s didn't want a convertible because of safety. Okay. I still think T-tops are cooler than a convertible. There's nothing wrong with convertibles. I enjoy convertibles to a point. I would prefer T-tops over convertible. All right. Irish says 76. Hunter says 76. Shopcat says 76. And now we're talking lasagna, so I'm hungry. Let's see. So, even though they made T-top standard on the Corvette Coupe starting in 68, the open top roofs didn't appear on the Firebird until 76, which would be our D. Answer D. So if you answered D, you got it correct. Every black and gold limited edition model commemorating Pontiac's 50th anniversary was supposed to leave the factory with 2 removable Hearst panels, but due to production problems, they only made 643 of them. So that's kind of crazy. Hearst wasn't able to get all of them done. I'm on a roll. Last convertible Corvette was 76. Well, until later when they made the others.
Ooh, C4. But if my son's watching this, he'll be like, Dad, because he's got a C4. So
yeah. Shopcat's worn out. I feel you, buddy. I've been doing wiring for 2 days. It's not as manual labor, but it makes the brain hurt. Okay. Let's see what we got now. Here's a good one for you. We just went through all 4 generations. So try to think of what generation came when. And what year did the first airbag come in a Firebird? Is it A, 1980, B, 1988, C, 1990, or D, 1992? And Nathan says W. Hunter, yes, the wiring diagram has been very helpful. Unfortunately, I've still not made anything on the Grand Prix itself work, but the LS will be ready to fire soon. So watch for that live because I'm going to just go live. And if it starts, awesome. If it doesn't, I'll try to stay live until it does. The engine
have a good night, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah,
Buck
Buck,
said
see
he's
you
got to
later.
punch out.
Yep. Well, maybe he'll listen to us on his way home. Of course, we probably won't be talking by then. All right, so we got a lot of 88s. We got a 1990. We got a W. Well, let's just see the answer. Oh, Alan says 1980. 361 says 1988. Let's see what it is. So even though the airbag was already out in many of GM's cars, it wasn't until 1990 that Pontiac reluctantly, finally changed the interior design just enough to take the radio controls out of the steering wheel and replace it with an airbag. It wasn't met with a lot of praise from enthusiasts, but from a safety standpoint, it did supposedly make the car safer. An interesting side note: GM owned Lotus at the time, so if you go look at a 1990 Lotus Esprit, it has the exact same steering wheel as the Pontiac Trans Am. That's all right, ASO. You got a whole bunch of trivia questions left to go, and we only got 9 minutes to get through them. So let's bust them out. Let's see here. All right. Other than the disc brakes that I've since added to some of my projects, what was the original option code that introduced four-wheel disc brakes to the Firebird? Was it the A XJ1, the B XP21, C U71, or D J65?
I think I know this one, but I'm not sure.
You have to think back to when did they introduce the rear discs on those cars? And that was the part that I couldn't remember. If I know fourth gen had them, I know third gen had them.
79 was first year.
I was going to say, did the second gen have them? And that was the part that made me struggle. Struggle Bourbon says the U71. Barrow says J65. Cousin Mike says the U71 Blackbird. Answer B looks kind of Pontiac-ish. Well, there's a reason for that one. Late second gens had four wheels. I believe Ray and Jay are both correct at 79. Arrowhead says bingo. Wait, wrong game. Well, let's see the answer. So the WS6 package got power four-wheel disc brakes in 79, and that bumped the whole package up $434. But for just $150, you could get four-wheel disc brakes added on Trans Ams and formulas for the J65, which is D. Y'all might want to listen to that Bear Rose guy. He might know a thing or two.
That's what I thought it was.
Yep. J65 was the addition of four-wheel disc brakes. Jay had a 400 four-speed. Jay, is that the picture you sent me today? Because that was a gorgeous car. Doug Narden in the house.
Oh, never fear, Dougie's here.
I'm telling you guys, Bear Rose has so much knowledge. I cannot be grateful enough that he joined YouTube, because every little time he puts a video out, I learn something. It may be the slang term for the little screws on your carburetor that always fall out. It may be how to clean out a gas tank. Whatever it is, I learned something, and I'm so grateful that he's joined the YouTube world. Hey, I happen to know Barrow says he gets lucky sometimes when he's not looking at a Ford, but I happen to know he's not a Ford guy. He just works on a lot of Fords.
Well, you have to.
They're found on the road dead. Uh-oh, Hunter's he's bowing out. See you later, buddy. We appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right. Here's the question. What is considered the most powerful factory Firebird model ever? The most powerful factory Firebird. Is it the 1968 Firebird, the 1969-1970 WS4 Firebird, the 1991 Firehawk, or the 25th anniversary edition Trans Am? Cousin Mike, you're right. He doesn't write me songs on the ukulele. And so far, I've only seen one out of you, so you better be practicing while you're driving. None of that safe driving stuff. You got to be practicing while you're driving. All right, what do we got? Dakota says it was the 6970. Arrowhead Garage. My wife across the room says you have to work on Fords all the time. And that is true. Alan says the 6970. Shopcat 6970. Irish says it's the Firehawk. Otto Savage says the 6970. Doug Narden says the Firehawk. Barrow says the 25th anniversary edition Trans Am. Struggle Bourbon said the same. Arrowhead says the Firehawk. Thank you, Landon, for practicing. So, believe it or not, the 1969-70 Firebird had a WS4 performance package that buyers could add to their car to get a Ram Air 4 V8 engine. And with the engine installed, it delivered 345 horsepower, higher than any other Firebird that came after it. Now, in little bitty font down here, as long as I can read it, in 1991, the option code BU4 turned a Formula into a SLP Firehawk with a modified L98 350 cubic inch V8. It was tuned by the aftermarket company, Street Performance, and then it was rated at 360 horsepower and 390 foot-pounds of torque. Only 25 were built, and none of them were built from the factory. So, even though 91 had more horsepower and torque, the 91 was not a factory car. But it is an awesome car. All right. Well, here you go. I think we talked about this earlier. What engine came in the 1989 20th anniversary Indianapolis 500 pace car Trans Am? Was it A, the Chevrolet 50305 V8? Was it an Oldsmobile 57350 V8? Was it a Buick 3.8 231 V6 or a Pontiac 2.5 151 i4? Yeah, Jay, I know, but we're trying to make the trivia a little more exciting. So if you put those little tiny things in there.
I remember in high school I had a model of the Firehawk, SLP Firehawk 3rd gen. Sweet car.
They were amazing. Okay, so we got answers. We got 305. We got 350. Barrow says a 305. Yeah, so I can't repeat that, but likely Doug Narden. Cousin Mike says the Buick 3.8. Alan says the 305 V8. Iris says the 305. Colleen, Arrowhead, 305, 305. ASO says a 3.8 V6. Doug's got a 305. Okay, Arrowhead's changed He says it was the 2.5 liter i4. Anywho, let's see the answer. I think it'll surprise most of you.
Nope, not me. That's my favorite one.
Not you. So this particular car ran a turbocharged 3.8 liter V6, which was shared with, you guessed it, the Grand National and GNX. It was good for 245 horsepower. Some would say 250, but it did make that the quickest pace, or it made the pace car the quickest Firebird ever sold at that point. And only 1,500 were built with white and tan interior. Peppy little car, but I just love to see that, turbo sitting under the hood. It's all my turbo guys, including you, Ray. I know you'd know this car.
I love those cars.
Cousin Mike, suck it, Trebek.
I'm just going to say that as a Pontiac guy, that GNX is probably one of my top 5 cars also.
Oh, yeah. So the fact that it had the same power plant doesn't hurt. All right, so I think we're at our last question. What year did Pontiac stop making the Firebird? Was it 99, A, B, 2002, C, 2008, or D, 2010? The code is already quick on the 2002. Rich GT 350R. You're right. The Grand National was sweet. Struggle Bourbon says B. Yeah, that Grand National's not playing around. That's a bad car. Arrowhead says 2002. Wait, Barrows has one of those motors? I could put one of those turbocharged 3.8s in my MG Midget.
That'd be pretty legit.
That'd be fun. Irish says 2008. Doug Narden. We got another 2002. We got 2008. A lot of 2002s. And the answer is, I messed up my slide, but it's 2002. Pontiac continued to make the cars until they closed. So Pontiac continued to make Pontiac cars until they closed in 2010, but 2002 was the final year of the Pontiac Firebird. Until later when another company bought the name, and we'll talk about that in another episode. All right. 2002 was the year Struggle Bourbon graduated. Yeah, I was a little before that.
95 here.
Yeah, I was right before you. All right, so that's all that we have on the trivia. Great job for everybody in the chat. We appreciate your participation. We hope you had fun, and we hope you learned something. Let's see. What day is this? This is Thursday. Oh, my gosh. 2 weeks away from No Name Nationals. Your car runs and drives.
For now.
My car rolls. That's good enough,
yours
right?
Goes up and down.
It does go up and down, yes. But I think we'll be there. I mean, I know I'm going to be there. I think it'll be running and driving by then. If not, I'm going to win that Pit Thrash Award and that fancy Model T wrench trophy. But I think that's all I've got for this week. How about you?
That's it.
All right, guys. Thank you all for participating. And we will catch you next week for the Pontiac Power Hour.
All right. Have a good